Sweet.
Yep, we're live. Good, perfect. All right. Well, welcome, Jordan, to the first official Dust of Ruin podcast. Cheers to you, sir, for making this happen.
Cheers to you, and welcome to you to our first our inaugural podcast.
Yeah.
Our Good with Works.
Yeah, this is something I've been trying to get going for a while. I've had a podcast bug for a while, and I've never really been able to, I wasn't gifted the amount of time that I currently have now to really figure this out. So I think I got it somewhat figured out, First episode, we'll see how things go. But yeah, I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate being here. It's fun.
So why don't we, I guess for the sake of things, just kind of, we'll go around the room like at an AA meeting. Hi, my name is Ben. I play drums for Dust of Ruin. Been playing for the band about 6. I don't really want to say that number, but 6. Probably going on 7. Drums in general, about 16 years, probably going on 17.
It's a while.
Yeah, it's been fun. It only took me about 17 years to get a new kit that I can't play.
God damn it. That's the real tragedy of coronavirus, is that you can't play your drums.
Yeah. Well, among other things.
Yes, among many other things. Yeah, I'm Jordan. I've been in the band for 3 years now? About a little over 3 years? Sound about right?
I'd say about that. That sounds about right.
Been playing guitar for Dust of Ruin for about 3 years now. I've been playing guitar in many different bands and on my own for about 14 years. So it's been a while. It's a wonderful journey as always. And I have far too many guitars, as anyone that knows me can attest. And too many amps, too many guitar pedals, but there's through sickness comes creativity.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I wish I had as many. I wish it was as simple as just buying a new guitar and letting inspiration. But you definitely got to work for that shit. Yeah. Speaking of which, what really inspires you when it comes to writing new music?
Ooh, what inspires me when writing new music? Listening to new music.
Yeah.
That's what inspires me, is listening to new music. Or just, any music in general, but usually listening to, obviously listening to heavy metal, listening to my influences, just trying to, not imitate, but capture what they're, putting out and being able to internalize it and being like, okay, well, that sounds really dope. I think I could probably, contribute something to my band that would sound as dope. So, I don't know, just listening to music gives me a lot of inspiration. Other than that, I honestly just kind of I just love the music in general. So I'll just sit down and, and tap out. I can't play drums now, so I have to sit here and use my fingers and try and figure things out. And I got my practice pad that I can sit and diddle around on for hours. But yeah, I don't know. I just like writing music. I like writing music because I like listening to music, and I want my music to make people feel the same way that I do when I listen to my favorite songs and my favorite artists. Where it's like,
nice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's, that was, I could totally feel what they were going for. Like, certain songs, they'll just kind of give you chills and things like that. So that's really kind of what I go for.
Okay. And before I talk about any of my influences, I'd like to touch on something that you just mentioned in passing. When you I love it when you send me videos of you just tapping out a rhythm or something like that, because that's one of the few ways that I've been able to get inspiration during these times. Like, sending ideas back and forth between people, between your friends, is just such a fantastic way to write songs. And I really hope that one of the positive things that can come out of the quarantine is that can be something that people rely on, not just us as a band, but everyone in general. I think it's a fantastic way to write music. Just give a 5 or 10 second idea, or 20, whatever it is, and send it to your band or your friends. And that's been the basis for quite a few of our songs.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and they've turned out really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good thing that we've been able to find a way to create while still, not being able to even congregate in the same room without having to be 6 feet apart. You know,
Yep.
it's been a challenge,
Agreed.
but I think we've done okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
others have probably taken advantage of it. I've seen a lot of artists online already. People,
Mm-hmm.
bands that are already established, like they're putting content out remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how the music industry as a whole has just adapted to this new way of living so far.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually one thing I really haven't paid as much attention to as I probably should have is how hyper big or even medium profile artists are dealing with this. One thing I do know is that I have Bands in Town installed on my phone, and I get notifications from bands that I don't even listen to all the time. Like Death Cab for Cutie sends me like 2 messages a day about all the shit they're doing. I don't give a fuck, and I really need to like block them or just uninstall the app. But I find it interesting how high profile people that have made this their career and they make a lot of money out of
Hmm.
it are getting through this. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean that's inspiring in itself, right? Like if they can find a way to do it, why can't we? You know, everybody's
Exactly.
facing the same challenge. We just it depends on your level of creativity on how you're going to deal with it. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're that dedicated to producing content, whatever, be it whatever type of content it is, if you're that dedicated to it, you'll find a way to do it and you'll find a way to get it out there. So it's been interesting. I've been interested seeing the way that people are doing it now, just how they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Testament's guitar player putting out that Rush cover with the other two dudes. I'm sure you saw that.
I actually didn't.
Oh,
I
that
need
was a
to
good
check
one.
that
They
out.
covered, I think it was YYZ.
Mm-hmm. That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
it was just a little screen similar to what we're doing now, except there's three of them. And you had
Mm-hmm.
what's his face on the guitar just jamming it, other dude on the bass just killing it, and then you had one guy on the drums.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I mean honestly it's not that different from what like a lot of fucking SNL is doing it. They're just, recording videos of themselves in their houses and then editing them together. And
Yeah,
it really is kind of a simple solution, but it works so well.
yeah. And it's making
Mm-hmm.
everybody happy. It's making it seem not as bad. Here you go. Here's some content. Things will be okay. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, that's been kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So, what else have you been doing since the quarantine started?
Um, Not as much work as I really should.
Very honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't think anyone's gonna see this work. So, you know what, whatever. No, it's not just me. There are so many people that I know that have jobs that are working from home, and they just have no work to do. So it's weird. It's trying to find a purpose when your whole life is kind of shaken up is hard, and you don't have the normal resources that you do in everyday life when you can go out and find something to do. You just can't operate the same way that we're always used to. So yeah, I've just been. That's one of the reasons that I've been writing so much music. That I mean, obviously, I've been playing way too much video games. I can't even think about how much time I put into my island on Animal Crossing already. Um,
You gotta
yeah,
start a Twitch channel, man. Stream that shit. Build your island.
I should.
Buy a capture card
Mm-hmm.
for like 160 bucks. You can start making some money.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, did you know that Super Nintendo games on Nintendo Switch's online service can do online multiplayer?
Yeah.
Like you can do original Super Nintendo Mario Kart on your Switch.
Oh, see, I didn't even take it that far.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of a
Yeah,
game
you can play
changer.
Mario Kart. Isn't it? I think we should try that. That would be fun.
I'm not opposed to trying that, dude. I should get Cody in on this call. Cody from Hatriot, shout out. Yeah, I should get him on it. He's streaming on Twitch. He'd probably be down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's unfortunately just like the original. It's only 2 players, but yeah, that seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun. We could do it like tournament style.
Oh hell yeah,
We could do a tournament
hell yeah.
style, draft up some brackets. Oh, dude.
Hmm.
We could have it like band against band, and then it'll go singles competition too.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Why haven't we done this already?
Uh, Inspiration. That's why.
No.
We needed the inspiration for it. You just brought it.
Yep. Thank you. I'm glad to that I could be of inspiration to you.
Yeah, see? We come up with
Yep.
good ideas.
Speaking of inspiration, since you touched on the topic, I'd like to just delve a little bit into what's inspiring me these days. And honestly, I think a lot of people can relate. It's boredom. Boredom leads me to just. I'm always personally tapping out rhythms with my fingers. Even though I'm a guitarist, I'm always thinking. I think rhythmically, which I don't know, I've just always done. So I'm like, I'll be hearing drum beats or even guitar percussive rhythms in my head when I'm driving, when I'm sitting at my desk doing nothing. And then when you have nothing to do, your mind kind of, you got to let it go crazy. So that just happens to be, where I come up with my best ideas sometimes. And yeah, sometimes I'll sit down and try and write something and I'll strike gold, but I just feel so good about the stuff that I come up with in the moment. And I think it's very similar to what happens when you put four guys in a room and you try and write music together.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when it's off the cuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just like,
yes.
bam, 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 like, let's just, okay, here's your
Mhm.
beat, or here's your guitar riff that I thought of real quick, or I didn't even think of it. I'm
Mhm.
just, there it is. It's, when it comes out and it sounds good, you've
Mhm.
got something right there. You can feel when you've captured it. You're like, yeah, that's it. We're gonna carry with this.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
agree. Um, but yeah, like yourself, I definitely take inspiration from music. I've been listening to a couple of new albums lately that have been uh, giving me some inspiration tingles. At your behest, you recommend that I check out the New Testament album, and
Hmm.
in true Testament fashion, the album is fantastic. I can't find a single flaw in it. Oh
There
god,
weren't more songs. We need
yeah.
more New Testament songs.
Yeah, why do they even bother touring? They should be putting out music on a consistent basis because it's all good.
I would pay them to consistently write material, but that wouldn't last very long. It wouldn't last that long with anybody. You just get burned out
No,
and
no,
start putting out shit.
oh, of course. I mean, but how they've managed for 35 years, and that's pretty goddamn impressive.
It's a no pun intended. It's a testament of what they've been able to do. Like they just, you know,
But
exactly. See, no, they've been consistently good for those 35 years, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy to do for 10. It's I give it to them. That was a really good album.
hmm Speaking of bands not being consistent in 10 years, I've also been listening to the new Trivium album, which look, I love Trivium. I do. I'm also not a fan of all of their work, as I think you feel the same way.
Hmm.
But this new album, What the Dead Men Say, is really good. I feel like it's a good mix of like some of their more recent poppy style. I mean, they've always been they've had pop influences or less hardcore influences. Like their choruses on this album are huge. They're like arena filling, but they still have the killer riffs of like what was the album with Rain on it? Not the
Ascendancy,
Crusade.
wasn't it?
Thank you, Ascendancy. It's
Yeah.
got the killer riffing of Ascendancy, and I know you're not the biggest fan of it, but I love Shogun. It reminds me of that album a
Hmm.
lot, but also with I don't know. They found a really good formula, and I'm really happy because I haven't liked Trivium since In Waves. So it's good to
Yeah.
see them putting out good death slash melodic slash whatever type of metal they are. It's just good, and I hope to get to see them soon. Maybe they'll play some tracks off of that album.
Yeah, that was I was pleasantly surprised. I saw I think I forgot whose post I saw. Um, it might have been Matt Heafy's. and it said the new album, and I was like, me not being a huge follower of Trivium, I was like, I didn't even know that they were working on a new album. I thought they had just, within the last at least, 2 years, they had already released one. I don't know. That could have been the case, and they could just be pumping out new material like crazy. I don't know when their last album came out, but
2017.
oh, was it? Okay, well, yeah, 3 years sounds about right. Um,
Yep.
but no, when I listened to it the first time, dude, the first track, "What the Dead Men Say," like that's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's incredible. And then
Mm-hmm.
it gets better and better and better, and then you have your mid-album break. Oh, what's the song that I'm thinking of? Uh,
Is it the
Sickness.
really low tuned one?
I don't know. It's
Bleed
Sickness
into
Into
me.
You or something like that. It's a slow one. It's about like halfway
Oh yeah.
through. They give you a little break, and then they just kick you in the teeth the whole rest of the album. And that final track,
Mm-hmm.
the ones we left
Oh
behind.
man, so good.
Yeah,
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 I've
that's
listened to
a.
that one times in a row because I just can't get enough
Mhm.
of the feeling I get from that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real
Mm-hmm.
good one. I'm definitely going to be drawing a lot of inspiration from Alex Benstrom's on that album because that dude just killed it. Absolutely killed it. Those
Mm-hmm.
were probably the best drums I've heard on the Trivium album since In Waves.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they're fantastic.
unbelievable.
Amongst the Shadows and the Stones is one of those really good songs.
Yep.
Like the drumming, and not just his beats, but like his fills are just perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and he keeps the band. Oh man, just the things that he does in the drum set, just for him personally, and to lift the rest of the band. I mean, they achieve that. They lift the rest of the band up and make them
Yeah.
fantastic.
I was thinking, because I've listened to that album probably like 10 times already
Mm-hmm.
within the last couple of days, and I just think like the drum parts for each section of every song for all of the songs were just selected so perfectly. Like
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't have written anything better. And vice versa with the guitar. Like I don't know what their writing process was. I don't know if it was like half Matt Heafy and their other guitarists came up with riffs and Alex was like, I got you. Or Alex was like, here's a
Mm-hmm.
beat, try and write something to it, and then they're like, yeah, I got you. I'm sure it was a mesh of both of those, but man,
Mm-hmm.
they they should keep doing what they're doing. They should keep drinking that Kool-Aid.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard that. I was reading some reviews for this album, and some people said that it built a lot on the last album. And now I didn't like the album, but I never, to be fully honest, gave it a fair shake. Um, I heard a couple of songs on the radio, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't sound like the Trivium that I really want to hear. But I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and give that one a shot. I think it was like "Sin in the Sentence" or something like that. I just remember hearing a song and being I love the band, but I was unpleasantly reminded of Coheed and Cambria. Like, I
Oh,
love Coheed and Cambria, but
yeah.
Coheed and Cambria and Trivium should not mix.
Mm, no.
No, that's just me. But other than that, have you heard of any other albums coming out that you're really excited about?
No, you know what? But I honestly haven't done a whole lot of research. I'm kind of reactive when it comes to new music. I see something like a week or two after it's already been released, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even know they had an album coming out. I didn't know they were in the studio.
Yeah.
Oh, Lamb of God. I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to hear their stuff. The couple singles that they've
Yeah,
already
I'm
dropped are pretty
excited.
damn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They're definitely keeping with the Lamb
it
of God
feels
style. I know Art Cruz is bringing it. He's bringing it real well too. He sounds good.
their new drummer.
Yep.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He does all the Willie stuff, or Chris.
Chris.
He does Chris's parts, and he puts in that vibe. But I can tell he's got more to give, so I'm excited. I really hope to see them live, either probably not this year, but whenever they come around, because
Yeah.
it's been a while since I've seen a Lamb of God show, and I would love to get in one of those bits.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't remember when the last Lamb of God show I saw was. Probably like let's see, maybe 20, within the last 5 years.
I'm
2015,
pretty
maybe
sure
2017.
I think I saw them on the Sturmoon Drang. I don't know how to pronounce that album, but their
7.
7 album. Yeah, they came to Oakland and they were fantastic. There were 2 pits at the Fox in Oakland, so I was pretty impressed by that.
That was
They were shaking the fucking
2017,
floor.
wasn't it? Or was
Yeah,
it
that sounds about right.
2016?
I think it was 2017.
I'm sure I was at that show.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm sure I was at that one. I'd like to hear when Arch Enemy is going to be releasing new material. You know me, I'm always chomping at the bit
Oh,
for them. But
mhm. Oh yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I've just been kind of rocking. Oh, the newest As I Lay Dying album. That one's a
Mm-hmm.
killer. That
That's a
one,
really good one.
no pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a good album. Yeah, I've just been kind of rocking those. We'll see what happens. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's other people that I'm not thinking of that are in the studio. Unearth, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't heard too much from
Yeah.
them recently.
Yeah. No, they've been pretty quiet, I think. See what I've been listening to some Vallarta's Murderer. That's been a little bit since I've listened to them. I did recently re-listen to one of my old favorites, Rust in Peace by Megadeth, and that's
That's a good
to me
album.
that's the pinnacle of. I mean, like I love Metallica. Don't get me wrong, old school Metallica, but I feel that even though as good as they are, Megadeth back in the day was keeping up with it, if not even exceeding them in terms of pushing the envelope for metal. Whereas Metallica more brought metal to the mainstream. I feel like Megadeth kind of they were more akin to all the other bands that were pushing the envelope of metal, trying to do new things. I never thought of any drummer in Megadeth as being as simplistic as Lars, which it
Hmm.
had its place. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't think that a lot of the metal bands back then that were smaller, like if you put a drummer in there that Metallica, that they would have had the same appeal. But no, it's Megadeth. Even 30 something years ago, like that music holds up, and I just it makes me wish that Megadeth was still good. But oh well.
Well, they're getting old. But then
Yeah,
again, so
those
is
guys are like
Testament.
60 now. Yep, Testament will never grow old.
Oh, man. I hope they keep putting out good music. I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of
Yeah.
put that thrash metal Bay Area scene right on their backs. They're like, we got you guys. We understand.
Mm-hmm. And there's not there's no scene right now, but even before all this, the scene was in an interesting place. It's a fun scene to be a part of, though.
Yeah. It's definitely a fun scene to be a part of when it's actually cracking, but it's been kind of brutal the last few years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been in and out a couple of bands, and in various states of mediocrity, popular mediocrity in terms of popularity, and yeah, it is really interesting. It's hard to break through, as it is in any music scene. But I mean, there are definitely people out here that are passionate for metal, and I've seen that at our shows, at other people's shows, and it's encouraging just to go out there and give yourself a reminder that people still care about metal, even though
Hmm.
it's no one in the mainstream wants to think of us.
Yeah. Well,
They don't even do the metal Grammy on TV anymore. I mean, not that the Grammys have ever meant shit ever in terms of that kind of music, but still.
I wouldn't know. I don't watch the Grammys, but I'll take your word for it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's odd times for sure. I just want everything to get back to
Mm-hmm.
normal. I want to go to the studio. I want to
Yeah.
play music.
Mm-hmm. I'm itching to get a show under our belt. It's yeah, it's
I'm itching to
weird not
get
playing music.
more recordings done.
Yes, yes, me too. I would love to get all the songs that we've been working on recorded and down, so we could record more, or just be able to hear it. Um, but yeah, I guess there's not much we can do right now.
Well, all we can do is what we can try to do. I
Mhm.
guess. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Cool. Well, all right, man. I
Mhm.
appreciate your time. I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to take too much. I know it's getting close to dinner time here, but I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. This is fun. Should do this again.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, we can try and make it a weekly thing, or whatever. We'll bring in some guests, bring in some guest speakers, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully have a little bit more to talk about. Maybe even we can
Yeah.
do a podcast in the same room sometime soon.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah, we wouldn't have to be 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
Someday.
Someday, when the world gets shit together.
Yep. Well, cool,
Mm-hmm.
brother. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
For sure.
All right, buddy.
All right. Peace to everybody out there.